Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good to be with you today. My name is Jeremy Cherney, and I'm honored to be the founder and president of Tobin Solutions, where I get to lead Team Tobin every day to help people like you and businesses like you to succeed with information technology. And one of the things I love to do and get an opportunity to do today with you is to share about technology and talk about it. And we're today talking about Microsoft 365, and this is what we call our Hidden Gems webinar, which is always expanding and updating. Um, so what I want to do today, and we'll see how well I do with this, you'll have to let me know, is I really just want to ignite your curiosity. There's a lot of slides here. There's a lot of products that come with Microsoft 365 beyond Outlook, Word, and Excel. I mean, that's what a lot of you are using it for, and that's great, but there's so many other things that it can do, so many other things you get with your current subscription or with an add-on subscription, but with the same ID and password you use and the same kind of look and feel of things that you use. So it's an enormous opportunity. So as we go through these slides, just kind of think, where might you use some of these things? Where could you use them? And then, maybe set up something on your calendar afterwards to take a further look at it. Where can you apply these things, right? You're the people that are in the business. You know the pain points, you know the process, you know where the process breaks down, you know where the process could be improved, you know where information could be shared better, and all of that communication. That's what these tools are designed to do. And you've got a whole tool shed of tools sitting here just waiting for you. So let's talk about some of those. I want you to just take a moment and maybe grab a pen, paper, or something like that, and just think about some of those areas of the business. What's your department? What's a pain point department area? What's an opportunity department area? Anything like that. What's working? What's not working there? Just make a couple notes just to kind of get that kind of creative juices, kind of set your background process in your brain, engaged in a different way of looking at these tools. You think about, there's always, these tools are designed to help you with your systems and processes. And where can you automate? Where can you improve? What about increasing profits? Anybody wants more money? So, or help the team, right? People get frustrated when there's rework, when there's mistakes made, when their information isn't being shared. Teams work better when all of that's available. There could be some gaps in your systems that some of these tools could fulfill, or some outcomes you want. Maybe you're trying to close more business this year. Maybe you're trying to have better survey results on the quality of your work. Maybe you're trying to engage your team more, engage your customers more. So many different outcomes you could have, both in terms of an experience or money or anything that you're trying, time, anything like that you're trying to create and produce. There might be some things you could do with these tools. So make a few notes on that. Just give you a couple seconds to jot a few more down. Great. So Microsoft 365 has been around for a long time. Check that out. Since 2011 is when Microsoft Office 365 came about. It used to be known as, I wonder if it started a little bit before that. It used to be known as BPOS, the Business Productivity Online Suite. And boy, that was a dud of a name if you ask me. But anyway, so we have Microsoft 365, Office 365, we have logo changes, and now we have this new infinity loop. I think there's a name for that kind of shape that Microsoft is now promoting, and this is Microsoft 365. So you're going to see this logo start to show up all over in the Office apps and all over the place. So exciting stuff there. What is Microsoft 365? I know a lot of you have been here before. I see a lot of familiar names. I see some new names. So some of this you've heard before, but some of this changes over time. So, maybe listen like you've never heard this before, listen with kind of a beginner's mind around this. Microsoft 365 is a subscription service from Microsoft. There's different tiers with different offerings. It's fundamentally all on the cloud, where Microsoft will host and manage the applications and your data on their servers. They have a guaranteed uptime, and then Tobin can help out with managing that. We'll talk a bit more about what we mean by that. But it's like a Swiss Army knife. And the reason I use a Swiss Army knife is you could use a knife to turn a screw. If you were trying to unscrew something, you'd have a screwdriver. You could use the knife blade on there and probably bend up the knife blade. You might get the screw out and damage the screw or cut your finger or something along the way. You might just do it successfully too and might have had no issues with it. But that doesn't mean there isn't a better tool for it. There is a tool that is a screwdriver on here. It's down at the end by the magnifying glass, is that type of screwdriver. They have Phillips screwdrivers. There's different tools for the job. And even so, while a tool might sort of do another job, you could ask yourself, well, is there a better way? Is there a better tool? Is there something that's more smoother, that's going to provide some advantage? And that's what some of these tools are that I'm going to show you today. The 365 is bundled in a lot of different ways. These are some of the common ways that a lot of businesses like you might use. There's a lot of add-on subscriptions in that. Some of you are doing just the business basic where you just get Office Online and some file storage, and you're mainly using it for email and Outlook. Excuse me. You might be in the business standard where you've now added on full Office at your desktop. Maybe you're not using the email in Microsoft 365. You've got your own email server or a different service, so you're just using the apps. A lot of people do that because they still need Microsoft Office. And a lot of people are moving now to the business premium solution, which is full Office on the desktop, full online everything, but it's that advanced security and mobile device management tier that gets added onto it. And that's one of the concerns with all of this technology that sometimes stops people, is they're worried about the security of this. They're like, oh, moving my data to the cloud might be a problem. And there's security technologies and methods and process around all of that to help with that. And you're moving your data to the cloud, or you're moving your data to laptops and phones and home, and from now, remote workers, and the data is being spread out. So it's a genuine concern. And there's different tools and technologies that Microsoft provides in those other versions that are going to help with that. Microsoft has what's called the shared responsibility model. And this is important to know because this is a lot of reliance on when someone buys a service, what they think it is or isn't doing for them, and then getting kind of upset when it doesn't do what they thought it was going to do, or there was an expectations mismatch. And this model is not unlike most models. You will see a similar diagram at Google and Salesforce and lots of other places. They talk about, look, there's a lot of different technology in play here. There's your desktops, your servers, your software, their servers, their software, your data, and where all that lives at any given time, and all of that. The old school model, the on-prem where you had your data, your servers, your workstations, everything in your office and all that, that's that on-prem line. Now we're so much more over to the left for most of our world, or maybe something a little bit more in between in some cases. But so much of things are moving up to the far left, to that software as a service model, that SaaS model. But look at that. Responsibility always retained by the customer, your information and data, your mobile device management, your accounts and your identities, and to some extent, your identity and directory infrastructure. So, and that's a lot. That's what most people care about, right? That's kind of that's the thing most people are trying to use every day. That's where the gold is for running their business. That's where the concerns are around security, around information and data being misused or stolen or compromised in some way. All of that. And you have 100% responsibility for it. So you just want to know that as you're thinking about this, because some of this stuff, with the responsibility around it, you're going to want to really understand what that is and what that means so you can plan accordingly. And when we talk about plan accordingly, there's a lot behind this. We were just talking about security. There's training around these things that might be stopping you. Like, you're like, I don't know how to use this. Like, Jeremy, I see the power of this, or I'm interested, I'm curious. You got me, you succeeded, you ignited my curiosity, but I don't know how to make this work. I don't know how to do the administration, or, fulfill my responsibilities around my data, or how this fits in with my business, or, how to migrate from one system to another. So Tobin can be your Swiss Army knife there. All of those things are different sort of skills and capacities and project types and abilities. And same thing, one person isn't necessarily great at every single one of those things. And you might be good at a couple of them. And then you just need us to help, or someone like us to help, hit a few of those bullet points for you to really complete this for you. So We're your Swiss Army knife too. Let's see. What are the benefits of Microsoft 365? And people still don't see this, and maybe they don't want to see it because they want to get away from work when they're not there. There's full mobility with just about everything in Microsoft 365. It's cloud first. You can see everything from your phone and your tablet, from your desktop, whether it be a PC or a Mac. There's just so many ways to get at this information. So all of your data, if you've got data in your office and it lives on your server, maybe you can only see it while you're in the office. Maybe you've got a VPN or some other technology to expose that. And all of that's fine and, works in some ways, but this is kind of like by design, works without all of those additional technologies to give you mobile access to things. So as you're thinking about all of those business areas you might want to impact and how you might impact them, one of the ways you might want to impact them is by mobility. You might want your drivers to have better access to information, or your remote workers, people working from home now. COVID by and large ended for most people, thankfully. Still a lot of people ain't coming back to work. It's not going to happen for a lot of people. They're either going to leave if you want them to go to work, they might leave to another place where they can still work from home. Whatever the reasons are, that's like a whole other conversation. But bottom line is people are working from everywhere now, and they might want to go move somewhere. If they are working remotely and they might want to move because they can work remotely, why not give them full access to everything? Guest access is another part of this, right? The data we talk about isn't just your data and informations within your company. It's the stuff you share with your clients. It's proposals, it's information, it's content. It is documents, it's spreadsheets, it's all of, what it is, because you're emailing it back and forth probably. Or you're using some other tools you might be paying extra for, like Dropbox or something like that. And some of that stuff is built into this, so you could either save money and save some administration with it. But there's ways of giving your customers, if you want, partners, if you want, whoever, if you want, access to your business data and do it securely. And they don't even need a Microsoft 365 license. So that could be part of how you're solving some of these challenges or ways of seeking these opportunities in these areas you're looking at. Wow, what if in that process somewhere right now we email that spreadsheet and there's a lot of back and forth. What if we could somehow give them access to the same file, or even better yet, a different way of even doing the data that allows for secure access, but easy access and streamlined access. Microsoft Graph, this is behind the scenes what Microsoft does. If you were at our AI presentation last time, the artificial intelligence webinar we did last month, we talked about how Microsoft Graph is integral to Microsoft's artificial intelligence strategy. This is all the links behind all the data, behind everything you store up there, all the apps, all the files, all the information. You can manually link things like, that you want, but Microsoft in the background is just looking at it, organizing it, linking it, trying to give you some insights. And it really powers a lot of the services so that you don't have to re-enter data between applications. We talked about security. There's a Microsoft Secure Score inside of Microsoft 365. This is something where they have recommendations for how secure your environment is, because people think about, they had their server and now they moved to the cloud, or they had these applications on premise and now they move them to the cloud. You still need security around all of that. And it is not all on and all locked down as tight as it can be with perfect security by default. It may be shocking to see how some of the security that they don't put on by default. They're starting to change some of those defaults. Like it used to be one of their standards is they wouldn't enable multi-factor authentication. Now they really push that by default. So there's a lot. There's a 900-page manual on Microsoft security for 365 when I last looked at it. 900 pages. So it's extensive. This is a place where you could take on some of this yourself because they've got some nice kind of tutorials through it and kind of walkthroughs on the basics, but you may want a security expert to come in and look on some of that for you. A lot of people use Outlook, and that's one of their, that's like when they think of Microsoft 365, they're at Outlook all day, and that's what they do is they do Outlook. Well, just want to make sure you know, you can use Outlook through a web browser, which is not a bad experience. I should update this slide because that's like an older image of it, but they have, it's a really nice experience. You know, a lot of people use like a Gmail account for their personal or something outside of this, and they kind of know how that experience flows. This is a lot like that. So it's pretty easy. It's nice if you don't have the full Outlook running. You know, sometimes Outlook can get a little wonky as an application. You know, if it is wonky or you're somewhere else where it's not working, you can just log in through a web browser. And then, you know, there's Outlook for your phones and tablets. And I say that you might have email on your phone already, but you might be using, like if you're using an iPhone, for example, Apple provides the iPhone email client with it that works with Apple's email system, but it also works with a lot of other email systems. And a lot of people use that by default. They use the email client that came with their phone. Same thing on Android. You know, you might be using a Google Gmail app for everything to connect to your email at work, or you might be using a you know, a Samsung app or something like that. There's an actual Outlook app, which has some nifty features and a lot more of the capabilities of the full desktop app that you don't have when you're using the native iOS and Android apps that came with your system. So you might want to check with those. Also, this is a additional level of security you get for things, so that if you have, if you allow your employees to use Outlook, for example, and they use this Outlook on their phone, and something happens, you need to wipe their Outlook. This makes it a lot easier to get their information and wipe it clean. So there's some good benefits to it from a security perspective. Office message encryption. So some people use an outside service to do this. There's different ways this works, but Microsoft has a facility where you can, when you send an email, you can encrypt it. That's it. Sometimes you might want to do that. You might need to do that for a policy reason, a compliance reason, or something like that. You might, you know, if you're sending a credit card number or social security numbers, you might have a contract you want to encrypt or something like that. And they have a whole little system that you get with the proper subscription level to be able to do that right from Microsoft Office. You can even brand it, put your own logo in there and that kind of thing. Microsoft OneNote. You know, a lot of you are familiar with the core components of the Microsoft Office suite, which is, you know, Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint. You know, some of you are getting into like maybe Publisher and a couple others. OneNote is a really cool app. And if you look at it, you know, it shows, it looks like a notebook, and it almost looks like, you know, that's their metaphor for this. It's like a notebook, and that's what the files are. Each file is stored as a notebook, and it looks like a tabbed, kind of like a tab colored binder. That's the metaphor with it. And this thing is like, think of it like a Swiss Army knife of information. You can drop files in here, you can type, you can put tables, you can put pictures, you can create more tabs and pages. You can share this OneNote notebook. Now, some of you have a device like this, probably sitting on a shelf somewhere, and it's called a binder. And it might be like a standard operating procedure manual you've got for your company, or a handbook for operating some machinery. You could put that whole thing online. And in some cases, you've already got it. It's like might be Word documents that you actually just printed off and put into a paper binder for people to use. Here, you could put those documents in here and have a full standard operating procedure, full HR manual, full handbook, full maintenance manual from your phone. All of this is mobile, from a tablet, from remote, anywhere you're at. It's a snow day. What's the policy for the snow day? Everyone can remotely open up their OneNote notebook and find out what the policy is for snow day. So check this out. This is a good one to get curious about. This is a really neat application. It's a really great way to, you know, one of the problems with businesses is they have a lot of systems and processes that aren't well documented or aren't well shared. And it's a journey, right? Some of you have some, and you're trying to grow that. Sometimes this is why it's not growing, because people aren't using it because of access to it. It's sitting on a shelf in a binder rather than something they can easily get from their phone and that's searchable for what they need. Microsoft SharePoint. You get that with Microsoft 365 in most of the tiers, and that allows you to create internal websites, but you can also use it to share documents. So for some of you, you have documents on a server still, or you're inside your office, and that's just fine. We have a lot of clients where that's the last application that's still sitting on that server in their office. They by and large move their accounting, their line of business apps, their whatever off to cloud-based applications like most of the world. And the only thing that's left is that server that's serving up files and managing the workstations, the IDs and passwords and such. So the last step for a lot of companies to kind of get rid of that on-prem server and some of the limitations of it, and getting rid of some of the costs of it, or shifting some of those costs to the cloud for some new features, is moving those files, and those files can get moved to SharePoint. We have a whole process around that. Might wonder how you access those files. That's how a lot of people get introduced to SharePoint, but it's a lot more. It's a communication site too. It's a full-on web page you can go to. You've got information, and you can put pictures and calendars and events, and you can see it from a phone. There's so much in creative you can do. And again, this is, what problem are you trying to solve? If you've got a remote workforce, there's a lot of studies coming out right now on how well that is or isn't working. There's a lot of people that are bringing people back to work, back to the office, because some of those studies are showing that the collaboration is diminished, that the productivity is diminished. I'm not going to get into those studies right now. You can look for yourself, but it is not a clear-cut thing that people are working great at home. And so, but you still may have a challenge moving them back. You may have somebody that might quit if they have to go back to the office. So what can you do? What are some interim steps? What are some things you could try to try and improve engagement and communication and collaboration? It might be setting up a website like this, where you've got more information being shared, giving them a chance to share information, being connected, seeing what's happening on here. It's easy to update these things. Once you know how to create the team site and go in, it can be updated very quickly by lots of people. And it's a great way to share information and keep people connected. Mention the files in SharePoint and OneDrive, so you can put files and folders and all of that. There's better ways to migrate those files. Sometimes it's an opportunity when you're moving things from your on-prem server to SharePoint and OneDrive, or even if you're moving it to Dropbox or any solution. I mean, you can just copy everything, but I know most of you out there have a lot of cruft in your system that you don't necessarily want to bring along with you to a new system if you can avoid it. So sometimes it's a nice opportunity to kind of clean things up and that. But that's a big thing. For you, this might be the hidden gem. Moving your files off your on-prem server up into the cloud. So it's easy to get, easy to use, easy to share and collaborate. Your experience of working on the files is largely the same, but now you can get rid of that on-prem server and actually increase and get new features that you didn't have before, like being able to be in the document at the same time, being able to share them with Microsoft Teams and chat about them. Microsoft Teams is the collaboration platform that Microsoft has, where you can text each other, where you can chat each other, where you can video conference and audio conference with each other. You can get phone numbers to include if you want to video conference with your clients. If you want to have a whole Teams phone system, there's another slide coming up on that. There's a Teams phone system that snaps in with this if you want. This is a great way of people being connected, and it's a huge time saver. If you haven't really looked at Teams and you're still doing a lot of emailing back and forth and emailing back and forth, I mean, some of the emails, emails are emails, right? And there's things that make sense to email. And then there's some stuff that's more like a chat going back and forth. You're emailing back and forth, back and forth. It's like, well, you could do that in Microsoft Teams, back and forth, and have it all captured there, more like texting. And by the way, if you're texting with your team outside of something like Teams, then those texts you don't own anymore. Those live on their phone. They live on whoever's phone has that information. If you're using it for business purposes, if you're sharing information, there's very little control over that. So another nice use of Microsoft Teams is replace your texting with Teams. You can load Teams on your phone and you can chat back and forth. Now, all of that information, wherever you log in, even when you go back to your desktop, is there and not sitting on your phone. But if you need to look back, if someone leaves, if someone loses their phone, you have not lost that information. So that's another great use case of Microsoft Teams, is get away from your texting each other and start move to messaging each other through Teams. There's a lot of good stuff with Teams. I encourage you to play with it. For some people, that's now their main like launch pad into work. Like they start their day in Teams. That's where they've got their messages, their files, their everything, because you can actually look at files through Teams and all that. It's their portal. Microsoft has a concept called the frontline worker model, and their solution for that is, for a lot of frontline workers, is using Microsoft Teams on a simple device where they can get in and get access to everything that's in Microsoft 365 from an easy to use app, including communication back to the mothership. You got Microsoft Teams phone. So some of you, that's another thing. You've got an old phone system. There's lots of different phone systems out there, and Teams is one of them. And for some of you, Teams might be a great solution. We've had some clients that it worked out for them and they love it. We had some clients that didn't love it so much. You know, your mileage may vary, but that's like with every technology. Nothing's perfect. You're always going to get some people where it just doesn't work for them, or they just don't like it for some reason. But bottom line is, with Teams, you can get a special phone that works with it. If you want a handset, you can use your mobile phone and run the Teams app on there and transfer calls and do all the standard phone stuff you'd think that you could do with a phone system with that. But the another thing that's nice about that, and this is a bonus. What's a bonus feature of Microsoft 365? One ID and password. One ID and password. There's a huge time savings to having one ID and password, one multi-factor authentication for all these services. So some of you are moving to phone systems, and then there's like a new ID to have, another ID and account to create, another password to manage, and another site to go deal with lockouts and administration and all that. All of these things I'm showing you, I'll share the same ID and password inside your system and can all be managed easily in one place. That is a big bonus. Time is a precious resource. If we can save some time with some of those things, it'll be a big, plus it's frustrating as all get out, right? Which password, which whatever, save yourself some headaches. Microsoft Planner, it's task-based planning. What does that mean? It's another way of planning, right? You think, go to the, they don't really have these anymore. Go to Amazon and look up books on how to plan, how to work your day, how to plan projects, how to get more done. You're going to find a zillion books with all kinds of methodologies and strategies and tools and techniques and ways to do that, and ways to organize all that. And Microsoft has one of those that follows a model based on tasks. So you create the tasks you want, you put them into Planner. We have a whole webinar planner that you can, webinar planner. We have a whole planner on webinar. Nope. We have a whole webinar on Planner. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. And you can see that on our YouTube site if you're interested in getting more on that. I'm sure it'll roll back around as a new updated live webinar at some point. But it allows you to take all your tasks and create little projects. You create projects, you create buckets of these, you create these tasks. You can assign them to people. Which people? The people that are already in your Microsoft 365. So all those people you work with every day. It's all built in. You can create task lists, checklists in here. You can assign things to people. They'll get a notification. You can run reports to see if they, what's done, what's not done. And if you want, some of you use Microsoft Project. They now have that as a cloud service, and you can work that in Microsoft 365. That's a more sophisticated, more complex for managing larger, longer term projects with lots of milestones and phases and things like that. You might just somebody that knows it. Maybe they know it. And if they know it, there's a huge value in there. Don't make them go learn Planner. If they know Project, there's a little extra cost, but so is learning and time and figuring things out. So if you've got somebody that knows Project, give them this tool. You can do a monthly thing. They can try it out. And if it's helping you with what you need, great. If it's not, you can drop it. It's monthly. Visio. A lot of you have seen flowcharts, right? Where do these flowcharts come from? Some of you may have used Visio as an application for creating flowcharts, for creating business process diagrams, for creating organization charts, where you got boxes and lines and You'll see people use this to sketch out diagrams for workplace layouts. You can put in chairs, and there's all kinds of templates that exist for Visio. And you get a free version with some free templates as part of all those tiers of Microsoft 365. And the free version does something like this. This is pretty cool. You can take a business process, you can sit down with someone that can help you kind of walk through what it looks like to look at a business process. Like someone like us could help with that, or get your team and organize them and get a whiteboard out and kind of map this out. And then you can actually put it in a Visio document that people can see from anywhere. They don't have to have Visio running. All they need is a web browser. They can see these. And then the other thing that's pretty cool, behind each of these boxes, you can link a document from SharePoint. So you could have a checklist behind it. You could have further documentation. So what a great way to train people, to onboard new members of your team. Here's the process. Here's where you go find the process. Let's train you on the process. Oh, you got questions on the process? Let's go back and pull up the process and look at the process together. And let's click on this link and look at what's behind the process. It is not that difficult to set this up, and hugely valuable. You could pick one. I guarantee you all have one process that if you had this documented and some better information shared and people knew about it and where to go find that information, it would improve that process dramatically. I assert that wholeheartedly. Microsoft Forms, quizzes, and polls. Where do people do different kinds of polls? They do those doodle polls. They do polls for all kinds of things to try and gather information. It could be a survey. It could be requirements gathering for a project. You might say, I need to gather X, Y, and Z before I do a project. A survey, a form. It can be used for feedback. So many different ways you can use these forms. And there's a whole form system called Microsoft Forms built in to 365. And it's super easy to get started. And it's super easy to use them and share them. You can get a little more complex with them. It'll pull the data for you. So there's easy reports that once you get the results, it'll automatically calculate stuff for you and make these little charts that give you stuff. And if you're a real, quant, kind of quantitative analysis person, you really just love your Excel, you can export all the results out to Excel and have at it with Excel and everything that it gives you. So you could be using this for all kinds of things. It's super easy. And guess what? If you're in Microsoft Teams and you do like a poll or something, it uses forms and stuff in the background. So that's how that graph and some of these things connect. So let's see. Someone's asking about accessibility for these. I don't know about that. I know you can zoom in and zoom out, but there's more to accessibility than just that. So you'd have to kind of maybe look and see if there's more information around what Microsoft could do around that. I don't know the answer to that. But like I said, it works like a web browser. So any accessibility type applications that work with the web browser for people that are hearing impaired, sight impaired, whatever things, where they'll be using some of those accessibility technologies. A lot of those integrate with what's on the screen as a web browser, and that's how this looks. So that might work well. Microsoft To Do. You have to-dos inside of Microsoft Outlook that some of you may or may not be using. Those to-dos, the to-dos from Microsoft Planner that we looked at, excuse me, lots of other places you can put to-dos. There's a to-dos app for your computer. There's a to-dos app for your phone. Some people live their day by to-dos. That's how they manage their day. Some people like to lay it all on a calendar. Somebody say, give me a list, give me my 5 things to do today or my 10 things to do today, and I'll just work through that. So however you like to work, Microsoft has an option for you. And guess what? All these to-dos in here, you can assign them to people. You can track them. You can see what there is. You can see their to-dos on your to-do list if you want. You can create groups of to-dos. You can have a whole to-do about a lot here in terms of what Microsoft can do. And there's a lot of to-do there. So I'm going to move on from that because I'm getting to-do crazy. There's a whole other part of when we talk about moving things to the cloud, we talk about, moving documents up to Microsoft 365 into SharePoint, or we talk about, We used to talk about moving your email from an on-prem email server to Microsoft's email exchange online. Some of you have applications where you can start to leverage some of those tools and technologies that Microsoft has. Some of you have servers on premise that have applications that do not lend themselves to moving to the cloud. You get into them through like a VPN, you connect into your office and they work fine that way, but they just don't really work as like a cloud environment. You need to have that kind of tight access to them. Well, there's options still. Microsoft has another part of their whole world that's kind of Microsoft 365 uses some of the Microsoft Azure technology as kind of a foundation, but Microsoft Azure allows you to take some of those servers and we can actually move those servers that don't lend themselves to like a cloud app, but do lend themselves to being migrated to the cloud as like migrating that whole on-prem server into a virtual server in the cloud. And that might be a little hard to wrap brain around. There's a lot there. If these are new terms and things like that. And maybe we'll do another webinar on something like that in the future. But that's a whole other thing. So there's another way you might look and be like, well, Jeremy, I looked at some of these things, but I just don't see, we still want to move things to the cloud because, no one comes to the office anymore. I want to get rid of my space. Everyone's remote. We're working fine remote, but no one comes. What am I going to do with all this space? And I've got that server sitting there. Well, what can we do about that? One of the ways we can do something about that is to move it to the cloud through something like this. And that's a bigger conversation. But again, just know that it exists. Ignite your curiosity. Got a little Ignite stamp for these things on some of these. This is another good one. Microsoft Whiteboard. What was the other thing sitting in our offices were whiteboards where people would go in and put up sticky notes and plans and drawings and silly stuff and whatever it was. And sometimes they would sit there and use them for brainstorming and they'd be in a war room or whatever. How do you do that when people are working remotely? Not easy. So they have a whiteboard solution. It's called Microsoft Whiteboard. It's a standalone application. It's evolving. It used to be pretty weak. Now it's a lot better. It integrates with Teams as well. So you can have a Teams meeting and you can zoom in and zoom out and people can be in the whiteboard at the same time, just like you might have multiple people go up to a whiteboard now to work on it at the same time. You can do that with this. If that's a problem you're trying to solve, if you're trying to collaborate, that's one of the problems, right? People just, we got however we got, good, bad, and different. We used to, however we collaborated, we sort of had a way we did it when we were all in the office together. And a lot of that's lost when people are not there or when we're not fully there. And so are there tools and techniques, are there process, are there ways you can learn how to use some of these things that can start to get people more engaged, get them part of the team so they can be not just like checked out online, but engaged online with you. This might be a way. This is such a hidden gem. Oh my God, Microsoft Lists. I see so many of you using like an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document to track a list of things. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can keep doing that. You can, and whatever things come with Excel, and maybe you're even sharing that online now, so it's easy for everyone to get to. But if it's on premise, it's sitting there and only one person can be in it at a time, and get out of that spreadsheet. I need to get into it and things like that. I need to update the list. Microsoft has a tool called Microsoft Lists where you can import a spreadsheet or export this data to a spreadsheet. You can glamify it. You can put colors on here. You can create a list. Like here, there's an issue tracker list. And by the way, they've got some templates for different things like an issue tracker. Maybe you might have that for your company. You got, hey, here's a list. We got our hot list of our top 10 issues we're dealing with and what the status is of them. And we got that in a spreadsheet so everyone can go and put in their update. Well, you could easily put that into Microsoft Lists and have it look nicer, be more mobile, build an accountability, because guess what? You can assign things from here to people and they can show up. It can, they can get tracked. This is a hidden gem of gems. And I am certain every one of you has a list somewhere. And it probably could be improved with something like this, whether it's mobility or making it more intuitive, making it more user-friendly. less error prone, things like that. I'll take a quick sip of water here. If anyone's got any questions they want to drop in the chat, or maybe you want to throw in the chat right now, what are some of these tools you're already using? Are you using anything that I've showed you? All right. Well, oh, I use List all the time. Great. Thank you, Amanda. Amanda's here, by the way. Amanda is at Tobin. She helps coordinate our marketing, and it's my assistant, and she helps make sure these kinds of things happen. If she was not doing what she does, you would not be sitting here now watching this webinar. So, and she uses lists, and it's great. And let's see, people are using Teams, and you're seeing some other things you'd like to explore. Great, great. So another thing that is worth exploring, you have so much data out there, right? You've got data up the you know what. You've got data coming from your accounting system and your business management systems. Sometimes it comes out in PDF. Sometimes it's exporting it out to spreadsheets. Sometimes it's just showing things on screen. You've got all of the different systems out there. And a lot of the reporting out there is just awful. I mean, I'm just shocked at the state of some of it right now. I think people are just moving so fast and so quickly on some of these applications. They're always rushing to push out new features, and some of the reporting leaves a lot to be desired for some of these, especially some of the cloud applications I'm seeing. But nevertheless, as I lament about that, what can you do to solve some of it? There is Power BI. BI stands for Business Intelligence. So that is taking that data, taking those spreadsheets, taking those databases, and linking them into Power BI and converting them into easy to use, drill down graphs, charts, dashboards, things like that. You could have this, you could have like something, a great example of a Power BI service is you could have something like weekly sales forecast or weekly sales status or something like that. You know, that might show up in a spreadsheet somewhere. Great, that's useful. You could have the Power BI service graph it, and you could see the trend of it. You could shoot this up on a big screen in your conference room when you're having a sales meeting, or you could link this to an updatable link on your SharePoint website so everyone in the sales team can see how they're doing every day when they go in and look at the SharePoint site. You can then click on these and then drill in to get to the data. There's a lot of nifty things, and you can take it all mobile. Are you the manager? Are you the CEO? Are you the kind of passive business owner? And you just want to kind of keep tabs on what's happening in the business from a beach? You can just open up Power Mobile BI. Everything on track, everything looking good. You can do all that right from Power BI. Delve is an interesting product. So when you think about the data you have, right? We talk about email, we talk about Excel spreadsheets, Word docs, all that kind of stuff. There's documents all over the place, right? Documents in SharePoint, documents in OneDrive, documents on your desktop, documents and attachments to emails, documents. So when you think about documents as a document, what if you could just search across Microsoft Graph and say, show me all the documents from Outlook, show me all the documents from OneDrive, show me all that in SharePoint, and put them all in a place where it's easy just to see all those documents. And that's what Delve is. That's what the Delve technology is. Now, it gets a little weird sometimes because Delve will, like a lot of software, recommend things for you, right? What does it recommend? Sometimes it recommends the last document you worked on, but sometimes it'll recommend, like for me, it might recommend for me the last document Amanda worked on, because Amanda and I work together on so many different areas in the business, and we're constantly looking at documents like together on, you know, status reports and results on things we're working on and all of that. She's working on those documents. Instead of me having to go find those or email those, I can just open up Delve or the Delve technology where they're building into some other Microsoft components and just find those documents. So easy. It's crazy. If you're spending time trying to find a document that was attached to an email, try Delve. Try Delve or try Outlook from your phone and do the search on the attachments. May save you a lot of time and frustration. Microsoft Stream. So we all know YouTube, right? Everyone knows YouTube, right? This is like your own internal YouTube channel. Why would you want that? Well, you all have a little movie studio in your pocket called your smartphone. And you all have something to say. Maybe you're the business owner and you have a welcome for the new people on your team you want to record. Maybe there's a process that you want to do a screen recording of how to do a step-by-step something and you want to put a video somewhere. You guys own Microsoft Stream as part of these Microsoft 365 technologies. You can take these videos. Don't worry about the quality of them. Just worry, I mean, you might in some cases. I mean, you want it to be work safe, appropriate, and things like that, but better just to get a quick recording. You can always record it again someday. There's lots of editing tools where you can quickly crop them and do some of those basic edits. You can do some of that with these, but then you can put them all up in here and then you can share them with people and they can see stream videos from their phone. Wow, what would that be great? Someone's remote and they need to learn something. Someone's on the road. Maybe you've got somebody working on a truck from the road and there's a maintenance manual or a how-to procedure that the maintenance person put together and they recorded themselves fixing this part on the truck. Or how to edit that spreadsheet the right way it needs to be edited for the proposal to get out to the customer. As I'm talking out loud, I'm realizing we're missing an opportunity at Tobin to record more things and put videos out there. This is a tremendous opportunity. And it all sits out there, so easy to use. You can learn how to use it very quickly. Copilot, what's that? What's Copilot? For some of you that have been here, this is totally new. So I put this in quotes. This is what Microsoft says. Introducing Microsoft 365 Copilot, your Copilot for work. It combines the power of large language models with your data in the Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft 365 apps to turn your words into the most powerful productivity tool on the planet. So hopefully they're not overselling that a little bit, Microsoft. Most powerful, we'll find out. This is ChatGPT that Microsoft owns half of. They own OpenAI. If you didn't see my our AI webinar that we did last month, you can go find that on YouTube. We talk a little bit more about that here. This is Microsoft integrating artificial intelligence in a new way. And it's going to be like this. Draft a proposal from yesterday's meeting notes. And those meeting notes, if you look at the little icon there, it's a OneNote notebook, but it could be from a Word note, a Word document, or anything. And it's going to do its best. And it might be good. It might be bad. It's going to be a learning thing. It's in preview. We don't know what they're going to charge yet. Some of this is showing up in Bing now to help. So this is going to be very interesting to see where Microsoft takes this. And they're so excited to be rolling this out. It's getting really well regarded. So far from what people are saying, that's what Microsoft is saying. We'll find out, what Microsoft does with this. And hopefully at some point we won't be saying Copilot, open the pod bay doors. Power apps. Power apps. Have you ever wanted to create an app for your business? Have you ever thought, we have all been using apps for years now. It's not a new thing. But have you ever thought, wow, if I had this spreadsheet, I could create a little app kind of a thing? And, or, based on a spreadsheet, I could turn this into an app. I want to share some information with my team. I want to create something where they can easily enter some information on a screen that isn't entering it into a spreadsheet, but some nice fields and graphics, and there might be some updates and pulling information. You have a whole system built into Microsoft 365 called Power Apps where you can develop apps. They've got some templates for some that are out there. It's a great place to get curious. You can do some real basic things out of the box very easily. Like anything, some more complex things are more complex, but you have a whole system out there. So if you thought, hey, Jeremy, I've got this little problem at work and we're trying to collect data out on the shop floor, and I really just need this one piece of data collected. I don't really want to invest in a giant data collection system. Could we do a Power App for that? Yeah, probably. Probably. So get the juices flowing on that. This is another thing, Microsoft Designer, more artificial intelligence. So Microsoft, I said, they own half of OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT. OpenAI also created something called DALL-E, D-A-L-L-E. This would be like DALL-E. And it's a designer application with a very specific thing, like creating content, blog posts, anything you want, like little pieces of graphics, little things for your newsletter, little things for your, I shouldn't say little because I don't want to diminish this because these are important things, right? But I mean, it's like there's how much time you want to spend on these. If it's the kind of thing this is going out and this is such an important piece of material that it must have your highest and best something, great, then invest in a graphic designer and invest in a, focus groups and all that kind of stuff to come up with something like that. But if you just need to come up, if you're like, hey, I've been really procrastinating on doing a social media post once a week because I know what I want to say, but I just need a quick graphic. Okay, well, here you go. Here's a quick graphic. Give me a social media post about a summer concert series or whatever. And it's going to generate some ideas for you. And then you can take one of those and copy and paste it and put it into your blog post. So this is an interesting one. Again, they haven't announced this yet. This is kind of like the scary world of AI here. We got a few more slides to go, so I'm not going to go on my AI diatribe about how this might impact interns and people trying to learn the biz, but you can watch the video for that. Power Automate. This is another huge opportunity. I guarantee you or people you have are doing repetitive tasks of like copying information, moving information, dragging information, receiving and filing information, sending information from one system to another. You get an email that's got an attachment, you then take that attachment, you go put it over here. You go get this attachment that's dropped in Dropbox, and then you go move it into a different folder on the server. Like you all have these things, and Power Automate is born to make that easier for you. It's like a little recipe book, and you can see some of these things. You can say, hey, look at the third one there. Third one from the top. When someone tweets a hashtag, add an entry into an SQL database. So maybe you've got a marketing system that does that. Or hey, when Microsoft, the next one over, send an email when someone adds a file to your Dropbox. There's things you could be doing here, things you can automate to make your life so much easier. Yammer, which is now being called Viva Engage. I think you're all familiar with Facebook. This is like an internal Facebook. And most of you are thinking, why the heck would I want an internal Facebook at my company? I don't know. Maybe it's that way you keep them engaged when they're remote. Maybe it's the way you keep a new person. This is an example, new hire onboarding page. They can go there and people can welcome them and say hello, and they can share things back and forth. It could be a way to put, I don't know. You can figure out. There's so many ways to using social media. You could probably figure out a lot of other ways to use this. But again, it's free. It's included. It's secure. You don't need another ID and password. It's not held by Facebook. And if someone ever leaves or something like that, they don't have the keys to your Facebook like they might be managing it now. You've got your data and all of that. So, and some of you I don't know, there might be this is the way the kids work these days, right? They use tools like this. Maybe instead of convincing them to do things our way, we could do things their way and see what might happen. Microsoft Bookings. How many of you do the dance? Hey, you want to meet? Great. When can we meet? I don't know. What works for you? Well, let me check my calendar. I'll send you 3 dates. Okay, you go check these 3 dates. And that takes time and energy. Microsoft Bookings lets you create access to your calendar in a secure way where it only opens up what you want to open up and allows people to book time. So you could say, hey, look, I want 4 hours a week of time on my calendar to be available for sales calls. And I want those sales calls to be in 15-minute increments or half-hour increments of that 4 hours a week. So basically you have eight sales call opportunities on your calendar. You can program Microsoft Bookings to do something like that, and then put a link to your Microsoft Bookings thing at the bottom of your signature on your email or on your website or wherever you want to put it. And someone can go on. They can't see all your calendar. They can't see what anybody else does. All they can see is there's an open slot for them to go meet you so that you can go win some more business. And now it didn't take all that time of messing around, because as soon as they book it, it blocks it out so no one else can book that time. Hugely powerful. I know we all struggle with this. I struggle with this. Sometimes I won't reply to an email for hours or a day because I just don't feel like messing with looking at my calendar. Microsoft Viva has what they call an employee experience platform. So they're all about that terms of service when you signed up for Microsoft 365 that allowed them to gather a lot of data about how you use Microsoft 365, and all that data that gets put into Microsoft 365 graph that I showed you before. The engagement experience that they have looks at that information, and it runs stuff in the background. You might have already gotten some of these emails and you're like, what is this Viva email from Microsoft? And it might say like, hey, we noticed you were really busy yesterday. Have you considered doing this? Or, hey, here's you had these emails that came in yesterday. Would you want to respond to those today? The idea of these workplace experience things and how those things get used, take a look at it. Because again, this is the challenge, right? I'm a business owner at Tobin, and I always tell people my number one job is to build a team. And I love my team. I love Team Tobin. We promote Team Tobin all the time. I want them to be working, hard, but, productively and not getting burned out. And, it's not just about work here. There's a culture. We want to work together as a team and like working with one another and all of that. That's a whole other aspect of things that don't get measured necessarily, in a spreadsheet, unless you're entering the data from somewhere in a spreadsheet that collected this kind of stuff. So anyway, take a look at this. If you're curious about this, or if you're curious about some of the impact of remote working and how Microsoft might be helping with some of that, you got that. So, well, we're actually done a little early here. Some time for some actual questions. I'll go back to some of the things that are in the chat here. But everything I showed you is available from office.com and the web browser. And if you click the little menu up in the upper left corner, that's this little start button, or the waffle menu. It looks like a little waffle. You'll see all these apps that are there, and you can start to play around with them and see what might be available. Get curious, play a little bit. But if you get stuck, we got your back. Or, contact your IT company or go online and search stuff. There's a lot of information out here on how to use these. And what the saddest thing would be if you actually could use them and they could actually improve your world, make your life a little better, and you're already paying for them and you're not using them. That would be, maybe sad's a little too over the top, but maybe a little bit of a waste, right? Wasted opportunity. So take a look at what you've got in here. Give us a call if you've got questions. If you want to talk more about any of these in specifics, give us a call. If you want to have a meeting like this in your company, because you're like, hey, Jeremy, I've been preaching your hidden gems and I want to bring you in to talk more to people who aren't here yet to hear this, you can do that. You want to talk about security or all kinds of things, follow us on social media. And thank you. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for spending your Wednesday morning. Hope you're enjoying your summer so far. Hopefully you have a great and safe and happy 4th of July. And I'm going to look at some of these questions here, but otherwise we are wrapped up. Let's see. Brian's talking about recording quarterly meetings. Yeah, that's all great stuff. Brian's new to our team, so thanks for jumping in with those, Brian. Yammer is that too. Yep. I didn't ask him to put those in. This is his own experience putting some of these things in. So that's great. He works at Team Tobin, but he's not a shill for today. These are honest comments. Sanders asking, could this replace Adobe InDesign? It might. There's a whole design aspect of that Microsoft Designer piece that goes beyond the AI component, where they're going to allow you then to take what's there and then do some additional editing with it. I think it's already built into some of it. So that kind of InDesign type feature, could absolutely. I mean, a lot of people use InDesign to create those kinds of posts and such. Depends what you're using it for. The title to look up on YouTube. If you go to our Tobin's webpage, actually, we can just paste the link in here. The man is probably going to beat me to it by the time I get there. YouTube. Oh, you beat me by a split second. Those are all our YouTube videos. You'll see what's out there. And if you got questions on any of those, or there's one that's older, and you're going to be getting a survey on this, and we would definitely love your feedback. You'll get a copy of the slide deck, and let us know. Maybe you want to deep dive on some of these. Let us know how this went for you. Give us your ideas. We'd love to hear from you on this, on how we did today, how we can do better on the webinar experience for you, or any other technology you're interested in hearing about. Love to hear more about that, hear how we can improve, and share it with you in the future. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. You guys have a great day and enjoy.